Good morning, everyone. It's March 21st, 2020. I'm Eric. Alright, so this morning I went to the Dollar General, and they let me in spite of there being a special time for seniors to shop there. There was only two other people there. And these two people happened to be an elderly couple, and they were looking for, can I guess? They were looking for toilet paper. And, of course, they did not have any. And you can tell that these are the people who or are people that listen to mainstream media. You can tell that they are very, very ill-informed. They lack details, which we don't have this problem, do we? So, after they were told there was no toilet paper or anything to be used as a substitute, such as Kleenex or paper towels, and the woman got visibly frightened. The color left her face. And the husband, you can tell that he was pretty worried. This is what happens to you if you listen to the advice of anything mainstream. And if you're listening to advice from mainstream medicine, you might end up worse off than you were before. Much worse off. So I have a few tabs open. I won't read the entire articles, but I will touch upon the main ideas, key details. And there's a video clip at somewhere in here that I'm going to share. And so, let's get into it. All right, first one up. Influenza vaccination and respiratory virus interference among DoD personnel during the 2017-2018 influenza season. Okay, we're just going to hit a piece of this abstract and a couple of the paragraphs so that you can get an understanding as to why taking any kind of advice from anything mainstream, anything authoritative, is probably to your detriment. All right. Receiving influenza vaccination may increase the risk of other respiratory viruses, a phenomenon known as virus interference. Virus interference. Okay? So, and I can also tell that these people at the Dollar General were the sort of people that probably went and got their flu vaccine every year. And again, and this is to your detriment. I have a question for you. If I were to do live streaming on DLive, would any of you join me? If you would, please do comment. And since I'm saying something about commenting, please do comment, like, subscribe, share, and you know the rest. You know the rest. All right. So, virus interference. The virus interference phenomenon goes against the basic assumption of the test negative vaccine effectiveness study that vaccination does not change the risk of infection with other respiratory illness, thus potentially biasing vaccine effectiveness results in the positive direction. So what they're saying here is there's a lot of bias in vaccine effectiveness results in the positive direction, even though this bias is unfounded. This study aimed to investigate virus interference by comparing respiratory virus status among DoD personnel based on their influenza vaccine status. Furthermore, individual respiratory viruses and their association with influenza vaccination were examined. We'll go down here to conclusions because the results right here it's dry medical jargon, if you will. So let's get to the conclusion. Recipient of influenza vaccination, they say, was not associated with virus interference among our population. Examining virus interference by specific respiratory viruses showed mixed results. Vaccine-derived virus interference was significantly associated with coronavirus and human metapneumovirus. And I don't know if I pronounced that metapneumovirus correctly, but that's how it's spelled. They go on to say that significant protection with vaccination was associated not only with most influenza viruses, but also with parainfluenza, a non-influenza virus co-infection. So, what they're saying there is, yeah, it protected against most types of influenza, but it made you susceptible and weakened you to the coronavirus and human metapneumovirus. So, thought you might want to check that out or hear about that, because I know a lot of people do take stock in the medical industry, but I cannot tell you that it is or I can't tell you how much it is, one of the most corrupted, greedy industries out there. Now, you keep hearing doctors and nurses on television begging the public to give them their face masks. And when this all first started, I showed you that I had a pretty good little stock of them, right? I mean, it's not some outrageous number like 14,000, but I had a good many of them. I still do. But here's the thing. These are the same people that when I got a really bad infection that spread from just a little tiny spot about the size of my pinky here in diameter. It was a spot on the top of my foot, and it spread all over my body. It made it all the way up to here. And when I tried to get help, because this went on for a long time, I got really high fevers. It was one of the worst things I've ever gone through. I practically begged them for help. Okay? But they treated me like I was a piece of shit. And they do this to so many people. So, let me ask you, why the fuck should I give you anything that I have? I don't think I should. You treated me like I made my bed, so I should lie in it. So, you made your bed. You chose your profession. Now lie in it. And I know it's a very ruthless mindset. But I've never been shown any kind of mercy from the medical industry. Never. So fuck them. Right? Fuck them. Now, I'm going to pause it for a moment and bring up this little video clip that I have for you. Alright, here we are. It took me a minute to find it, but I'm going to play a very short clip because, mainstream media likes to rake us truth tellers over the coals and get us community guideline strikes. So, it will be brief.
We're doing the interview like this with this protection? Yes. 93-year-old Shirley Acker told me when she was young, her generation would have heeded the warnings.
We did when we were younger.
What's the difference today?
They think they know it all. That's what I think. They think that they're better than the children were years ago. And we just listened. That's why I got to be 93.
In the wake...
We just listened. This is why I hate baby boomers. Okay? I really do. I have no sympathy whatsoever for baby boomers because they are the greediest, most money-grubbing, most Yeah, let's just put it this way, okay? They say millennials are an entitled generation, but and they don't have shit on baby boomers. Simply doing what you're told without thinking about it is a detriment to your life, your well-being, and the well-being of those around you. And as far as knowledge goes, she said that, we all think we know, us younger people, and I don't really consider myself to be old. I don't consider myself to be young either, but it's because we do know more. A lot more. Are the people at the beach not making the wisest of decisions? No, they're not. They're not making the wisest of decisions. However, they may be in a situation where this is the last time they're going to be able to get together. This is the last time that some of these people will ever see each other. And maybe they care about each other. Maybe, maybe they actually care about each other and realize that could it be the last time I see these people? It's a good chance that indeed it is. My rooster, man, he has a big ass beak. Big, big beak. So, there's that. Hopefully, a few seconds, with, what was it, CBS? Or NBC. NBC Nightly News does not give me a community guideline strike. I think I'm going to have to alter it. Well, you see on the screen. I had to alter it so that it was blurry and just, man. Alright. So, let's see here. I covered this one. Looked up that virus. Alright. If my computer decides to cooperate. Are they all like that? Alright. Debunking Nature magazine's COVID-19 definitely didn't come from a lab, China propaganda. And all of you know that I've been on this from day one, okay? I haven't made a video every day, and I'm I'm not going to, because there's no need. If I see something that's important, I'm going to jump on here and talk about it. Now, the National Guard is being deployed all across the country. We have medical professionals, and I use that word lightly, telling us that they're running out of PPE, and doctors and nurses are already becoming sick, and we're being told that they have to reuse these masks repeatedly, and some of them for a whole day, and others for 5 days. We also hear that they're asking people to make masks at home. What does that tell you? What does it tell you? Well, it tells me if they're telling the truth, excuse me, if they're telling the truth and things are as they say, we are quickly racing to the collapse of the medical industry. Maybe you shouldn't blindly believe everything you read, even if the source has a pretty solid reputation, like Nature magazine. Nature magazine has censored over 1,000 articles at the request of the Chinese government over the past several years. And it seems pretty clear that their recent article, The Proximal Origins or Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and that's just another name for the coronavirus here, is just one more example of their influence. So, Chinese government, from day one, has been on a disinformation campaign. And mainstream media has been regurgitating the claims from the Chinese communist government. And I can't stress this communist part enough. Okay? Now, they block contradicting information a lot of the time in Google searches. Just so you know that. If you do a Google search, you may end up with just some publication that sucks the ass of the Chinese Communist Party. And I've been thinking about this virus name. One thing that Donald Trump is doing that cracks me up, I laugh every time I hear him say it, China virus. West Nile virus, for example. It's named by where it originated. Not all diseases are named that way, but a lot of them are. So what's the problem, China? Could it be that the conspiracy theorists are actually correct yet again? Could it be? But while mainstream corporate media regurgitates bullshit from the Chinese Communist government, sites like Zero Hedge have been at the forefront of keeping the lines of investigation open and have been banished from Twitter and marginalized, just like my channel here on YouTube. You might recall I did a pretty good video on the Parkland shooting. Pretty good. It was a pretty good video. And it's still up on BitChute, by the way. outlining and showing all the inconsistencies in so-called eyewitness testimony. And we find a lot of these same inconsistencies with the reporting from mainstream media. And a extremely slow reaction by the very people who are supposed to be there to protect you, to keep you safe. Let me ask you, though. Let me ask you, who is going to keep you safe from them? And you know, one of the reasons why you really shouldn't trust academia or mainstream media is because they have allowed greed and bias to cloud their reality. For example, China has bought off the head of Harvard's chemistry department. So, just something to consider there. Alright, below is a takedown of that article, the one that got them banned. And of course, I've already covered that article, but here's some bullet points that we should look at. As the report mentioned, right at the start, scientists passed the H5N1 bird flu through a series of ferret hosts until it gained ACE2 infinity, and ACE2 is a receptor. And this became incredibly virulent, which is what's seen with COVID-19, since its affinity to the ACE2 is orders of magnitude higher than SARS. That process would leave a genome that appears natural and not purposeful, as well, since it wouldn't leave a genomic smoking gun and would simply appear to be the result of natural selection. However, the addition of artificial generations produced by this process of passing through ferrets in the lab would create a lot of genetic distance from any possible relatives. Precisely what is seen in this COVID virus. It forms its own clod and appears very distant from all other bat coronaviruses. So this lazy research, they're either unaware of the bird flu study or willfully ignoring it. Mainstream media, mainstream academia, they've all been bought off. And that's why you can't trust most of what comes out of their lying mouths. You cannot trust most of what's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, or any of the rest of them. They all have agendas, and they worked closely together to achieve these agendas. All right. Given the level of genetic variation in the spike, it is likely that SARS-CoV-2, like viruses with partial or full polybasic cleavage sites, will be discovered in other species. This seems like a pretty intentional dissimulation. It's likely that other viruses with this cleavage site will be found. What? How likely? 1 in 10? 1 in 10 million? Is it likely that if my aunt grew balls, she'd become my uncle? Is it likely that a natural intermediate animal vector will be found? Well, likely or not, until it happens, it seems incredibly disingenuous to use the word likely, because it doesn't mean shit. So, again, this is a bioweapon. It was created by China, and I suspect that our own nation has its own version. So, I'm not saying our nation released a bioweapon. I'm just saying that it's very likely that the same research was going on here, and we have copies of it, if you will, in our own laboratories. This one's at Zero Hedge. Detect, deter, and annihilate. How the police state will deal with a coronavirus outbreak. And this comes from John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute. Fear is a primitive impulse, brainless as hunger. And because the aim of horror fiction is the production of the deepest kinds of fears, the genre tends to reinforce some remarkably uncivilized ideas about self-protection in the current crop of zombie stories. The prevailing value of the beleaguered survivors is a sort of siege mentality, a vigilance so constant and unremitting that it's indistinguishable from the purest paranoia. Terence Rafferty, New York Times. So, a lot of you might recall me covering drills where the DoD, among other agencies, used people dressed like zombies in some of their drills. Well, there was a reason for that. And the reason is to dehumanize you. The zombie narrative was popularized by the television series The Walking Dead, which a small group of Americans attempt to survive in a zombie-ridden post-apocalyptic world. But they weren't only fighting these zombies, they were also fighting cannibalistic humans. Right? Remember that? Season 5, episode 1. No. Oh man, what was it? I used it as a thumbnail. And for the first 3-4 seasons, there was a lot of zombie action, and they were around every corner. But as time went on, their biggest enemy wasn't zombies, it was other people. author or journalist Sarita McFadden points out, while dystopian stories used to reflect our anxieties, they now reflect our reality. So, but the U.S. government has spent a lot of time, money, and energy in recent years using zombies as the models for a variety of crisis scenarios, not too far from what we're currently experiencing now. So they've been doing drills using zombies, dehumanizing the people in a way that would make it easier for our own military, our own police, which obviously the police have absolutely no problem gunning down innocent Americans, but I digress. Making it easier for them to kill us. Back in 2015, the CDC put together a zombie apocalypse preparation kit that details everything you would need to have on hand in the event that they showed up at your front door. And this happened in conjunction with the Department of Defense, and they used zombies to put government agents through their paces in mock military drills. So, this should be a concern to you, given the fact the military, National Guard, is being deployed across this country. And then, this virus is not the only thing happening. We also have a lot of seismic activity. We also have a failing agricultural system. We have a failing financial system. We have a failing prison system, law enforcement system. Everything is failing. Hell, I even heard Cuomo, New York Governor Cuomo there, talking about the possibility of disruption in essential services. So, those too will be failing. And there's a spin-off show to The Walking Dead called Fear the Walking Dead. And in that show, the villains aren't the zombies. The villains are the U.S. military. And in that show, they sweep into an L.A. suburb to quarantine the survivors. So, maybe a little, what do they call that? Pre-programming. So we expect it. So, and, you know, this is how they feel about the population. They feel like you're zombies. And, let's be honest, a lot of people out there are mindless stupid zombies. So, let me hit this last paragraph, maybe two, for this one. Indeed, zombie fiction perfectly embodies the government's paranoia about the citizenry as potential threats that need to be monitored, tracked, surveilled, sequestered, deterred, vanquished, and rendered impotent. And that's exactly what they aim to do. Make you impotent by seizing your guns, by locking you in quarantine centers, by putting you into FEMA camps. Remember, these places don't exist, right? Anyway, I thought I would share this with you. I will, since it's already gone on for 40 minutes, a little over, I will go ahead and cut it here. I did have some other things to touch upon, but perhaps in a later video. I have gardening work to get done, so we have food to eat in the months to come. Food other than rice and this kind of thing, anyhow. Till next time, kill the state, live free.